Hello, hello. Hello, we are back with another Chainsaw Man stream. I really enjoyed this episode, so let's talk about it. There's plenty of stuff to talk about in this one. A lot of it sort of went against what I expected, but a lot of it was very much in line with what I expected. So, this episode, it picks up like seconds after the whole Pickle Devil thing, right? Which I was a little bit confused about last time, because it just popped up and was literally annihilated in seconds. So we pick up there, and here we basically get a whole bunch of lore on how they operate, and that they shouldn't technically be just running around and like slaying these things and all that. And here we are basically told that Power was the Blood Devil before, which sort of makes me believe that she was something very, very notable, right? We'd see her flashback, which sort of also showed us that to some extent she was pretty notable in some ways, but I don't know, the Bat Devil was sort of not really a huge deal either, so I don't know. And based on some lore we would get, I'm curious to see whether or not like the Bat Devil is actually, I mean, I would assume it's not, right? In terms of the power rankings, it's probably pretty low. And here we got another scene which just made me note down that Makima is a sus Gus, right? She's literally just like, maybe you're just not cut out to be a devil hunter, right? Again, based on some scenes we'd get later in this episode with her meeting like the council or whatever, Makima is so sus. She seems like the biggest manipulator, and like she's ready to just cut off their heads herself at any moment as soon as they become useless. And I also wrote down, Makima is way too calm. That's another thing that just has me like, this is so sus, right? And also, here I noted down, they've got some real sibling energy, which sort of felt a little weird a little later on, because, you know, they made the whole deal on why Denji would help her get the cat back, and at that point I was like, okay, this is some weird sibling energy. But this early on, it was very much like your typical, no, he did it, no, he started it, no, he did it type of vibe, and I really enjoy that. But Makima is way too calm. Her voice has always been monotone, the voice actress is killing it, 100%. She very much seems on top of her game. I think I saw that the dub is also being simulcasted, right? So I kind of want to check out the dub too, to see how that looks. I haven't had the chance to do that yet, though. We then move right away from this little scene, and we get to the shot of Denji getting a drink, right? Where we once again hear that it's basically just the whole food thing repeated again, right? That he's just like, oh, this is such a luxury that I'm just able to get the drink and all that. But more importantly, what I wrote down here is look at the lighting. The lighting in this scene is so good. It's so good. Like, when we see Power just looking through, like, the vending machine, the lighting is just so good. The shading, everything is just so good. I'm gonna keep raving on about it, but even, like, the brief shine from Denji's shoes, right? Because they're white. They reflect light. It's so good. It's so good. As I fully expected. I said that the cat was sus. We see what I think is a different cat, right? But a cat walks into the shot, and we get a lot of lore. Basically, we hear that Power likes cats. We hear that she herself also had a cat. Speaking of cats, my cat is here, and he's attacking me. She basically says that a devil took away her pet Meowy, and that's why she's basically fighting, right? And what I wrote down here is this. I wrote some profanities, which I don't want to say, just not to have to cut them out later, but I said a lot of profanities about Denji. I called Denji dumb. I said he was an F-tier character, and then when he said that he would understand Power if it was a dog, I said more profanities about Denji. I am a cat person, through and through, so him just casually saying that he doesn't understand her, saying like, for a cat, that's dumb as hell, I was like, no, Denji, that's it. That's it. I'm no longer interested in your story. I don't care about you. That's it. We're just done. We're just done. What do you mean you don't? Like, imagine not feeling bad for a cat. Especially with Power, right? She just picks it up. She's clearly friendly with her. It's very ironic, because my cat is literally trying to... Come here. We can get him in the shot. We can make a 5D experience here. But yes, I was very, very angry at Denji. I was not pleased. I was not pleased at all. And basically, he is an F-tier character. And of course, with how this episode would end, you can probably expect my reaction. Alright, moving on. We then cut to the headquarters, right? Where we also hear that Power apparently can't even go out alone, right? So Denji is basically responsible for her during this run, which would, I'm guessing, is going to play into what we see in the next episode as well. Because obviously, she was under his guidance, I guess, and she sort of died. So, yeah. And then we get the scene on the... I think that's supposed to be a tram, right? I think they were on a tram. Yeah. Again, I just wrote down, look at the lighting, look at the animation, and then we get the close-up of Power's head, and like the light reflecting off of it. It's ridiculous. These shots are simply ridiculous. The animation is beautiful. And here we get another conversation about basically their companions, right? And this is where I got so worked up about Denji not liking the cat that I did kind of forget about Pochita. I'm not gonna lie. So, you know, he's like, yeah, Pochita was sort of my animal companion, and I'm like, oh, that's why you were a dog person, right? Right. And then I got a little less angry at him, but I'm still very mad with him. We get to the Makima and the council meeting, which is one of the most fishy scenes in this entire episode for me. So we basically hear that there's a suspicion that the military are going to be using devils and all that, and she basically reports about her squad, and again, she is oddly calm about the whole thing. It seems like she has literally zero emotional capacity, which is always very sus, and then she just calls all of them dogs again. And then we hear the phrase, make sure not to grow attached. And that is literally the biggest piece of foreshadowing that I've ever seen. I am 300% at this point that my theory I talked about last time is correct. I'm convinced. I think the big switch in Makima's character is that she will actually, if not develop emotion, she will get attached to them, and then some drama is going to come out of that. That's my assumption now. It feels like everything is pointing in that direction, right? Because right now she's being set up as a very cold and meticulous leader, but then we have these sort of the inverse of that, where she is responsible for them at the same time, right? And here we get a lot of devil lore, right? We basically hear that Makima has super high hopes for Denji, and then my cat's about to drag the camera out of the way, I think. Hold on. And here we're basically told that all devils are born with names, and basically as they become more feared, they become more powerful, right? That was our animal companion. And here I really, really, really like this. Just the concept of when a word or when a name is more feared, it becomes more powerful, right? That's so cool. And then we get the reveal, which frankly, I'm so ashamed. I should have immediately clocked it, right? Being like, oh, a chainsaw. That's why he's super special. But yeah, we're basically told that exactly, that the reason why she was like, oh, okay, is because he's Chainsaw Man, right? So people fear chainsaws, so supposedly he should be ridiculously powerful as is. And because Makima is once again a master manipulator, she's like, he's unmotivated. I can mold him. Which is like, yes, I really, really like that. Imagine a nuclear devil. Oh boy. This is like one of those things that's going to be really, really interesting to see, right? Because I think we could talk about how much people really fear nuclear, right? Because it's one of those things that a lot of people don't understand and don't necessarily think about. So if you were to ask like 100 people, what are they more afraid of? A person with a knife? So a knife? Or something nuclear? I feel like something as simple as a knife would still be up there with nuclear. So I'm curious to see how we're going to play with these concepts. Because, like, what's the number one fear in the world? It's gotta be something super, super boring, right? It's gotta be something like darkness or heights or something like that. So we're gonna see a darkness devil. It's going to be the spookiest one of them all. I'm really, really interested in this magic system, though. And I really like how it already sort of contextualizes a lot of what we've seen. And, again, we haven't heard anything about Makima's power, which is very sus. But, another thing, in this scene, Aki talks about that they're bad for their operation, implying that it's something specific, right? He says, about Denji specifically, he says he's a bad fit for our operation. Here I get to wondering, is he implying that operation something specific, or operation just like what we do, right? Because my knee-jerk reaction was that it's something very specific, like there's an operation that needs to be carried out, and this task force is doing just one thing. But I suppose you could also say that it's operation just operating, right? So, I don't know. Do kids count the same as adults because the Dark Devil would be the most OP? Again, a philosophical debate. Are people afraid of the dark, or are they afraid of the unknown? Right? We get into that territory of what actually is the fear part. Because I feel like with chainsaws, there's sort of the assumption too, like, people use chainsaws for very practical purposes. But when you think of a chainsaw and fear, you probably think of somebody trying to chainsaw you, right? So, and then we move into what I thought would be a Monster of the Week type deal, right? We switch right back to Denji and Power, who are going on their little mission to get Meowy back, which I was very happy about. Come on, let's go on a quest, let's go on a little field trip, get a cat back. Why not? Why not? I was a very naive little boy. I thought it would actually be successful and we'd be happy, but no. And right away, my assumptions and my thoughts are just annihilated because they're sort of acting friendly and all, right? It's sort of like, oh hey, we need to go there, it's all great. And then she just knocks Denji out. She just knocks him out. And at that point, I was like, what? Like, we were buddies. Like, what happened? We're coming to save your cat. What are you doing? I was very, very confused there. And very surprised. I did not expect it in the least. And before we move on, as usual, a really cool shot of a field is something I wrote down. Because it is a very cool shot of a field. This, seriously, I've been talking about it a million times, and I promise I'll stop saying it, but this shot of a field seriously got me, like, early Monster vibes, right? Where he, like, escapes initially. It's a really, really cool shot. It's a really, really cool shot, and I like it. But yeah, she then drags Denji into the house, where we meet the Bat Devil. He is monstrously big, and the ending fight would already sort of show that he's ridiculously powerful, right? Which sort of got me thinking, again with the magic system, are bats something people are afraid of? That's something that kind of caught me off guard. Because if something as simple as a bat is this powerful, then what's gonna happen when we're going to have a spider devil? I feel like a lot more people are afraid of spiders than are afraid of bats, for example. It's gonna be gnarly. So here, I incorrectly wrote, Power is working undercover, ? She delivered Denji as food, which she did, but she did that to trade. And then, the devil tries eating Denji, he's mad, because the blood is disgusting. And then I wrote down, again, incredible shot of Power looking through the destroyed roof. Because of course I did. And then the music switches up. Music in this episode was perfect. We'll talk about it with the final fight. But here where like the piano tinge kicked in, I love that so much. That was so good. And another thing that I wrote down about the devil is like, how do devils actually work in this world? Like, how often do they pop up? Because this one just seemed to be hiding out in this house, right? And now he sort of wanted to come out of hiding and jump into the city. So I'm curious how often they pop up, how they pop up in the first place, and like how they operate, right? Because the zombie devil was also just chilling in a warehouse, basically. So do they just move around and try to hide? Something like that? I don't know. I guess we'll see. I just thought about how Pochita is really small and weak for being a chainsaw devil. Yeah, that is a very good point. Why is that? Does that imply that people are not afraid of chainsaws? But why is Denji so powerful? No, that doesn't make sense. Okay, yeah. I think you just broke my brain a little bit. Because obviously Pochita was starving. Oh, actually, maybe that's it. Maybe like if a devil starves completely, they just turn into something useless, basically. I don't know. That is a very, very good point, actually. I didn't think about that. I guess that's something we're gonna learn more about. Hopefully. Hopefully. We then hear Power demand that Meowy is released, and at that point, I wrote a lot of profanities, and just no in all caps. I was very, very sad. The fact that the cat was eaten. I honestly, like, when we came here, I just assumed the cat wasn't alive, right? So, if the cat wasn't alive in the first place, I probably wouldn't have been that sad. I would have just been like, okay, so we come here, we defeat the devil, at least he got what he deserved, right? But the fact that we actually saw the cat, and then he ate him, or it, I don't know, that was messed up. And then I also wrote, please don't tell me this entire story will be about animal companions. Because at this point, we have had the Power flashback with her little companion, and we've got the Denji flashback with his little companion. So if every one of them are going to have animal companions, and all of them are gonna die a horrible death, I'm gonna be very sad, and I'm not gonna like the series at all. Then we get into her flashback. And here I wrote, in all caps, and I bolded this is a PSA. Power gives the cat, okay, the cat was starving, okay, so fair enough, but she gave him milk. Do not give your cats milk. Cats like milk, but cats are lactose intolerant. Do not give your cats milk. It's not good for them, at all. Don't give your cats milk. At this point, basically the series just subverted each and every one of my expectations, like just in a snap. Because obviously, we drift out of the flashback. Oh, and obviously the parallels between Power and Denji are pretty clear, I think. Like with the whole Power 2 just got this animal companion and she sort of lived because of it at that point, right? Because initially she was like, okay, I'll just eat you or kill you or whatever. But as time went on, obviously they became buddies. And the same thing happened with Denji, right? He got Pochita and then they were good buddies and it's sort of that. Basically what the series is telling you is that everybody needs an animal companion, and it should be glorious. So yeah, we come out of the flashback, she accepts her death, she just stands there, and the freaking bad devil just eats her. And at that point, I was like, what? Like, what do you mean? Obviously, I'd seen the openings, I'd seen the teasers, and the last episode set up Power as such a cool character. Like, I think you remember what I said. I literally said I'm more interested in Power than I am in Denji, and then she just dies. Like, what is this, Game of Thrones? Like, what am I watching? I do have, like, 2% chance possibility that she may have somehow survived. That's sort of my assumption, that maybe she's in all the OPs, she was in all the arts, she literally had a really, really cool power. Everything is pointing towards her being important. But she was eaten and sort of died. Really, really confused about that. Denji starts drinking Bat Devil's blood, and then he basically says it's Morbin time and goes chainsaw mode. We get another flashback to Pochita, which was very sad. Of course it was. I feel like we're going to be revisiting that. Kind of what I would love to see is that every time Denji says it's Morbin time and he sort of goes chainsaw, I would love for us to flash back to like several events with Pochita, just so we can sort of build his life together, right? Because obviously when he goes Chainsaw Man, he sort of reconnects with Pochita, and we haven't really seen a lot of them together, to be fair. Like what, the first episode basically? So I would just love to find out about their life more through these brief flashbacks. But yeah, the fight basically begins. We get the very, very tropey scene of the fight like begins, then we just cut to complete silence. It's complete peace. There's just like this woman in an office, and they just crash through the roof and everything goes haywire. I mean, that's a trope. I love it. I love it. That was good. And the animation here, if you remember what I said about the CG being... Actually, yeah, one more thing I wrote here. The little crying Pochita. The little crying Pochita was just... It looks so, I don't know, so goofy, but so good at the same time. I love that. The animation The 3D Denji here too, in some cases, looked a bit shiny, right? But they spliced in a lot of 2D animation. I was a big fan of that. Though yeah, the fight basically goes on, and here we got another thing that sort of subverted my expectations, because they're talking about Denji saving humans and all that, right? He sort of did say, just get out of here, you're in over your head, right? He's basically gonna kill you and all that. And then he just straight up says, no, I don't really care about them, I'm not trying to save them. And then he throws the car, right? So, is he going to be a sort of a not really hero, but he's just going to try to save people when he can, but not really worry about it? Because that would be interesting. I feel like in a lot of anime nowadays, we get either one or the other, right? We either have a 100% hero who's going to be like, oh no, I still need to save these people, right? And that's why they take damage and all that. And then on the other, they're the people who don't care at all. But having this mix in morality, right, where he's like, I don't want all of them to die. But if I'm gonna die, and if I'm going to have to fight this thing, I'm sorry, if you don't get out of the way, I will, frankly, go through you. So I think that's a really interesting aspect to explore. And it's going to be interesting to see how that develops now that he has lost power as well. Also, I'm curious to see what he thinks about power now that he has lost her. Because technically, the last thing he did, or rather the last thing he saw, was him bonked over the head. Is he going to hold some bad blood? Who knows. But one thing I did note down is that the J-Rock in the scene was awesome. I need this OST. I really hope that they have a full OST listed out somewhere. I even have the timecode written down. It's at 21 minutes and 20 seconds. The music that kicks in is so good. I really want that full track, just to put it in my playlist. But yeah, that is basically the episode, and at the end, like, he obviously destroys it, right? I mean, clearly. And then we get the scene of him just essentially being bathed in blood, which is... who doesn't like that? Who doesn't like a character just having a literal rain of blood over him, right? That's awesome. Mikasa, Chainsaw Man, whoever. All good. And then I just wrote down, but hold on. Is Power really just dead? Because I was still in disbelief. I'm still in denial. And this brings up, as I said before, what's gonna happen now? Because the operation they ran was relatively small, right? Denji was sort of responsible for her, and now she's dead. But she did bonk him over the head. So, I don't know. And another thing, how much of Power's story did Denji actually put together, right? Did he see how similar they really are? Like with Meowy and Pochita? Did he notice that? I don't know. Is he just going to be mad that their deal didn't go through? Maybe. A really weird one. If this is the kinds of surprises the series is going to pull at me, I'm all in. This twist, I couldn't have predicted in a million years. I really liked it. And the fact that it happens so suddenly, I feel like gives the world a lot of uneasiness, right? Which I think is super important in something like this. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm watching a series where fights actually have stakes. So, if this is how they're going to go, then I'm all in. Frankly, you know me. I love myself a tragedy. I want characters to get defeated, and I don't like characters yelling to become more powerful. And this was literally that. Like, she was just like, well, I lost, okay? Just GG. And she was eaten. I think if she's going to come back to life somehow, this is gonna age like fine milk. But I don't know. I'm not sure. Like, if I had to put a bet on it, I'm leaning towards her actually being dead. But it just seems so sudden, and that would very much go against all the industry tropes ever, basically. Because usually if you would want to have like a huge death early on, it would probably be like in the prologue, right? I almost threw out a whole bunch of names, but all those would be clearly big spoilers. With like a huge death super early on, you would basically want that to shape the main character incredibly early on. But I feel like with this, we were already past the prologue. So, who knows? Who knows? Death in a story. As a One Piece fan, I never knew that was even a possibility. Very true. Very true. I guess that she is gonna come out of the guts of the devil that Denji killed. Okay, let's. I'm gonna say this, and I don't care that it doesn't make sense. If Power survives, Meowy better be alive, because if Power survived and Meowy didn't, we're gonna be here for a long time. But all right, the last big thing I want to talk about. What the hell is Mappa doing? And are we seriously going to have 12 EDs? We've literally had 3 different endings. Is this like some sort of new industry standard that I've missed? This is insane. I think last week's was still my favorite one. If I had to rank them, I would go episode 2, yeah, then I would go this one, so episode 3, and then my least favorite was probably the first one. That's how I would rank them. This one really gave me like the Death Note second opening vibes, with how just utterly... It was just utter madness for like half of it. And I loved it. Wait, what? Wait, hold on. Is it the same band that did the Death Note opening? Oh, well, there you go. There you go. Apparently I know music now. Apparently I know music. That makes sense, because it literally had the same exact vibe. Okay, I'm glad I picked up on that. And I mean, the visuals in there, right? Like, Makima is portrayed as this goddess, which was, again, so sus. Because there's literally, like, a scene of Makima being a goddess and Denji bowing down to her. Which is like, okay. This episode as a whole, if the first one, sort of got me intrigued in the world and how it works, and the second one was sort of a, let's get into it, then this one was like, no, let's not get into it. And it just flipped everything upside down again. Because by the second episode, I was sort of like, okay, we're past the intro, we're gonna find our groove, and it's going to sort of all level out. And then this episode rolls around, and literally one of the main characters, who are at least assumed to be the main character, is killed off, and a lot of sussy business happens, and we get a lot more lore than I kind of anticipated, because I thought the whole magic system would be revealed slowly. But at this point, we basically get, like, now that we hear a name of a devil, we can immediately estimate how strong it would be. So that sort of surprises me as well. But a really good episode. I think because of the huge twist, I enjoyed this one a lot more than the second one, and I might even say that I enjoyed it more than the first one. So yes, thank you very much for joining me. I'll put this up on the other channel, cut together as usual. Alright, have a good one. Bye-bye.